The time is 6 p.m. If we could please have the emergency evacuation procedures.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
Would the members please register their presence by voting yes? Show 16 present, 5 absent. Mr. Clerk, if you'll read the call of the meeting.
Notice of public hearing in accordance with Tennessee Code Annotated Section 13-7-105, the Board of County Commissioners of Blount County, Tennessee will convene and hold public hearing on February 10, 2015 at 6 p.m. at the Blount County Courthouse Commission Meeting Room for the following proposed amendment to the zoning resolution of Blount County, Tennessee, being Resolution 00-06-010, a resolution to amend the zoning resolution of Blount County, Tennessee by adding a new RAC2 Rural Arterial Commercial District 2.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This public hearing is now convened and open to hear testimony and comment on the proposed resolution 15-02-003. Anyone that would like to address the commission, let's start on the front row. Anyone on the front row, if you'll come forward, and then we'll go row by row.
Okay, I'll go first. Hi. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. In specific, Mr. Grady Kasky and Mr. Brad Bowers, you are my guys.
Ma'am, if you could please identify yourself. And
I'm Pamela Antos. I live at 616 Yellow Rose Lane, Maryville.
Okay, thank you.
I love this area. I've been in love with it since I was 8 and we came here on a family vacation. And I think it was about that time I decided someday I'd live here because it was just so beautiful. Because of jobs and family, I lived in Maryland most of my life. And we were one of the families in about 1960 that moved from the near Baltimore suburbs to the further Baltimore suburbs to get rid of the development that was encroaching on our yards and our 2-lane roads. And when we moved to those western suburbs, in the county where we lived, we had no grocery store, no drugstore, no nothing. Farms and housing developments. And we were willing to drive to the next county to get what we needed, and we could. But then people started moving in higher numbers to escape the sprawl of the nearer suburbs, and we had a population bang, so we needed to get more grocery stores and more whatever, and the slippery slope started. When I got married, I moved to the next county over. Once again, I wanted to get away from so much development back to where it was green. And in the 19 years I lived there, it just kept following me. Right down the highways, every available intersection. And nobody seemed to realize how insidiously it was creeping up on us. Until one day in the town that I lived in Maryland, there was a moratorium on all new construction. Because golden eagles had taken over the area, had wiped out their natural food supply, and were now attacking household pets, people, small children. The balance of nature had been changed. I'm all for development, and I'm all for retail success. But at some point, when home building reaches its peak, and how many stores do you need? How many dollar stores in any one town do you need? How many grocery stores? How many drugstores? How many anything? About the time that my parents were feeling a little squeezed in the late 60s, Columbia, Maryland was conceived in somebody's mind, and within 3 years, there it was. A town just erupted onto the county landscape. A planned city, a planned community. Most of its houses now are difficult to sell because with that planned community and with all that development came population and crime, traffic, all the things that make you say, gee, not in my backyard. So I just want to say,
hello, my name is Brad Ansley. I live at 7360 Happy Valley Road in wonderful Happy Valley, Blount County. Thank you for letting me express my opinion. I believe that the proposed creation of a rural arterial commercial district, RAC 2, should be set aside for further research and public discussion and not ruled on at this time. Such an important change in our zoning regulations should be debated in the public forum so that all interested parties can weigh in and have their voices heard. There are numerous fundamental issues that may be affected by this proposal, including property rights, taxes, quality of life rights, traffic problems, infrastructure, light pollution, sprawl, etc., etc., etc. I am for development, and I'm in favor of anticipating the future economic wealth and health of our county. However, I believe that foretelling that future is a tricky business, and we need to proceed in as prudent and thorough a manner as we can. While this proposal may be a good starting point, it is, in my opinion, woefully short-sighted and lacks the measured discussion that it most certainly deserves. A recent 11-10 vote over the Dollar General store in this very room, zoning request, shows that there was a large portion of the residents that were against granting that request. Doesn't it make sense then to take a deep breath, get input from all those affected, to welcome new ideas, to try our absolute best to craft a plan that reflects the interest of the most of our residents as possible? Personally, I would like to see a series of, just so I'm saying something positive, I'd like to see a series of county-mandated urban growth zones located in our more densely populated communities like Chilhowee View, Wildwood, Wallen, and Tallahassee, for example, and have space set aside akin to the urban growth boundaries that would utilize common infrastructure like sewer, water, parking, roads, sidewalks, lighting, and landscaping. These commercial and light industrial zones would be an asset to the communities and would also concentrate their impact, leaving the rural space with a minimum of patchwork sprawl. They could be located so as not to degrade the scenic beauty of the county, but still provide convenient access to residents. It has been suggested that retail stores like Dollar General are needed to replace the mom and pop country stores that have disappeared over the years. Let me say now that a 10,000-foot generic box with a giant illuminated sign is nothing like the old Tallahassee Store Company or Dude Cooper's, which fit in with the existing community. The humble mom and pop stores closed early, had minimal signage and much smaller parking lots. Those of us who choose to live in rural areas have done so to avoid sprawl, light pollution, and all the noise and traffic that this plan would bring. These subjects and many more need to be aired out in public without a rush to pass the first plan.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Billy Mincer, 4702 Gribble Road in the Allegheny Loop community. In 1998, the Tennessee General Assembly, in the face of a mushrooming population growth in the state of Tennessee passed an act that required every county of the state to develop a growth planning committee to come up with a plan that would allow for commercial growth, smart commercial growth, while protecting the rural qualities of the counties. Blount County did that, and in the act and in the county, the committee was made up of elected officials from all the communities, Alcoa, Maryville, Friendsville, Wallen, and so forth, as well as selected volunteer citizens from the community. And I was one of those, and I served on that committee for 2 years. And we did come up with such a growth plan that allowed for commercial growth in towards town and urban growth, and yet protected the rural character of the county that was called for in the act. Study after study, whether it be the Hunter Growth Plan or polls at the county polling booths that asked citizens what they thought about were important about the quality of life in Blount County, have said the same thing. Protect the scenic rural values of the county. It's good for commerce. It's not only good for quality of life for us that live out there, but it's good for commerce. Why do you think Denso and Pronova and a bunch of others have come here? Blount County is a beautiful place to live, to raise a family, to work, and to be. So the rural values that we're talking about, the scenic rural values of the mountains, lakes, and streams, have commercial value, have tax value to us as citizens. So now we have before us a proposal that would go around the zoning laws that were passed in 2000 at the request of citizens and support of you all, your former commissioners, and this will circumvent that and go against the public will. People have said it over and over. I didn't attend the last hearing about the Dollar General, but I understand it was fairly overwhelming, and all the studies and polls that you can count say the same thing. So I think to pass that and allow commercial growth out in our rural neighborhoods that we said we don't want would hurt not only the quality of life in the county, but commercial and tax values to the county. So don't kill the goose that laid the golden egg, our scenic rural values, and do what the citizens have asked you to do.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Skinner, and I live in District 9. I want to talk about property rights. Some people in rural areas say that they should be able to do what they want with their property. They should be able to develop it commercially if they want. Perhaps some people in your districts feel this way. But what about the property rights of the rest of us who live in rural areas, folks who've lived here for years, perhaps grown up here, or recently bought a house here, who want to continue to enjoy the rural landscape? What about the property rights of those who don't want a 10,000 square foot store next door? What about the rights of those who commute on these arterial roads, who don't want them jammed up or increased accidents caused by left turns into new commercial areas? Now, I'm not a land use expert, but I have studied about it, and I'd like to share quotes from two land use professionals you may have heard of, Ed McMahon and Donovan Ripkema. They say, defenders of anything goes land use policy argue that, quote, stopping sprawl denies free use of property and the financial gain that comes with freedom. Well, the fact is that all property owners have property values and property rights at stake. Another quote is there a right to own property? Absolutely. Is there a right to use property? Absolutely. Is either the right to own or the right to use property absolute? Absolutely not. So yes, Blount County, one more quote. A 150-year history of court decisions in this country has recognized that sensible land use legislation enhances rather than diminishes property rights. So of course, Blount County is growing, and yes, the county benefits from commercial tax revenues. The question is, what will Blount County look like in the future? Will our rural corridors turn into the kind of commercial sprawl that we see in the RAC zones we have on 411 South and 321? As elected officials, you are the ones charged with having a vision for this county at large, and in regards to zoning, for considering the well-being of residents who live outside the incorporated areas. The proposed zone is too big, too extensive, allows buildings that are too large for our rural areas, has too many unintended negative consequences for the property rights and the quality of life for people who live in these areas and who travel these roads daily. Please send this back to the Planning Commission for much-needed citizen input. Thank you.
I'm Carol Green, 3215 Tuckaleechee Pike, which is Cherokee for Peaceful Valley. I lived in the city until we retired and moved out to the county on Tuckaleechee Pike on purpose of wanting to be out in the natural beauty of this county. I'm here to ask you to listen to what has already been brought before you. You've heard it before, and I'm really frankly puzzled as to why the money that we have spent on the growth plans has been ignored. Why aren't we using the planned growth areas as designated already? Why is this being pushed through, and why isn't the Planning Commission working on this a little bit further and deeper? We trust you to do what's best for the whole county and not just for the developers that want to move in with money. So I just am joining in with the others and saying, please reconsider any fast push on this and to help preserve our county as a beautiful place to live. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eric Johnson. I live at 441 Case Street here in Maryville. And my wife, Libby, and I raised 5 children. They call East Tennessee their home, and Blount County their home. 3 of them graduated from Maryville High School, 2 attended Montville School, not far from where you're purposely and very, with a sense of urgency, you have a need to rezone that. So I speak in opposition to that and invite you to listen to another voice, and that is the voice of the mountains. Not only the foothills of the Chihuahua Mountain, but the Smoky Mountains. And we listen to the National Park Service, and we hear about the invasive species threatening the trees of the Great Smoky Mountains. Well, when I listen to Chihuahua Mountains and lean into the rich history of tens of hundreds of thousands of years, some of the oldest mountain ranges on planet Earth, I hear them crying out to stop. Enough, enough. The invasive species is called urban sprawl. We lived out on Ridge Road for a number of years. And every time I come from the airport and ride into Maryville, I sight those gorgeous mountains. And I know there's a refuge there that is tranquil. You can hear the sound of country. And so I ask that you listen to your heart and think about what kind of legacy that we together want to leave to our children. That there's a place in this county where you can go and not get the urban sprawl, the unseasoned development, and to preserve a part of our county for years to come and generations to come. Thank you very much. I speak in opposition to the amendment to rezone. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Julie Rajel, 1808 East Westwood Drive in Maryville. And I also want to speak in opposition, and I think the people have spoken very well, and so I would probably be repeating. But I want to thank the paper for publishing 2 letters to the editor today. Otherwise, I wouldn't have realized there was a public comment period tonight. I'm really glad they published Brad Ansley's, and I can't remember the other one, but I didn't see the announcement for the public hearing. It must have been there, right, because it's legal. And I just was trying to think of what else to say, and I had a social studies teacher in 9th grade who said, for every event you ask who, what, where, when, why, and how. So I'm wondering, who wants this? What I'm hearing from what people said about the Family Dollar, the Dollar Generals, was nobody that lived out there wants it. And I'm hearing from people here, nobody wants it. So I'm wondering who does. Is it because the county needs the taxes, or I don't know. So, and what would it be? Is it something particular that somebody wants to put in there? And I'd like to hear what it is. And why? Why is it needed? I don't know. I don't really see a reason. Are people not being able to access stores or gas stations from where they live? So I'm curious about, the big curious is why. And the where, I understood finally today that it's where right now you can build on the 4-lane arteries, but once they turn to 2 lanes, that the growth is restricted. And I think that's for a reason. You'll have more traffic issues, as somebody else pointed out. And also, it's just, you get out there in the 2 lanes and you're getting into windier back roads, and it's more scenic. And so I think it would disrupt the scenic nature of the county. So to what, where, when, why, how. When, I guess, is as soon as you can get it done, and I'll leave the how. But thank you, and I hope you vote against it. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Alma Aspasia, and I live at 2806 Sevierville Road. And I'm not even sure if this directly affects how far out. It says to Seymour. Why? This is the first notification I've heard anything of this. My family's lived here a real long time, and I have no interest for another dollar store or any trucking traffic. I lived in a big city too long. We need maps, more information, clarification of how this is going to affect our quality of life, just as homeowners, parents, what's coming to us now. I would like to ask that the board put this aside for further review, for more public clarification, as if the county can plan our lives and our county's future. We as homeowners, property owners, there are some business owners that are, my neighbors. We need to know where to take our future. Do we stay in Blount County? Do we leave Blount County? Do we move further up in the mountains? Which is, it's all good. I mean, we do need progress, but at what expense? Do we uproot our families? I'm public record. I'm 52. Do I upload my family again and move once again? I just ask, before you make a decision on our lives, we need more public information, because this is a 2-day-old paper that came to my house, and I'm just like, this happened to me once already. That's why I'm here today. It brought me to Blount County, and I thought I was here to stay. And I would just like, before you do anything further with my life, could you put it up for a clarification so that each and every resident that's involved, we have the say to say yes, no, maybe. Thank you.
My name is Ken Veal. I reside at 3516 Sevierville Road. It's often said that what we aren't up on, we tend to be down on. And I would submit to this council that one of the most urgent needs before us now is that of full disclosure. Through public print, through virtual means, through mail if necessary. That residents, all who will be impacted or who might be impacted in the future, can have answers to very specific questions. What are the arterial highways and the intersections where changes might occur now or in the foreseeable future? What types of zoning alterations might take place in the residences that are currently adjacent to Sevierville Road between here and Seymour? What is the timetable for the changes that will be made? What is the phasing plan to what will be made? And perhaps a most important question, who are the winners and who are the losers in this transaction? Who stands to gain by changing the zoning at this time? And who stands to lose benefits to themselves, to their families, to their children, and to their grandchildren because of these transitions that might take place? I think that full disclosure is a matter of not only logistical necessity, it's a matter of relational expediency, that the citizens are fully aware of all that is envisioned now or in the years to come. I would submit that perhaps the council should consider slowing down its decision-making process in order to allow time for full disclosure, in order to allow time for all who might be impacted by this decision to benefit in a knowing way. We certainly don't want to have a decision made that a few are for and many are against, and sows some seeds of discontent or disgruntledness among the citizenry because we did not answer enough questions or give enough pre-think before a decision was made. Thank you for your time. I appeal to you to be patient and let your citizens know all the answers to all of their questions. Thank you.
I'm Mindy Lunsford. I live at 2209 Hedrick Drive. My husband and his brother also have property in the Tallahassee area. I've lived in Blount County my whole entire life, so has my family and grandparents and my husband's family, and I would hate to see the beauty of the area messed up by, commercial buildings and things put on property that, it's beauty. Me and my husband decided to stay here after we finished school. A big part of it was because we loved Blount County, we loved the nature and the area. We wanted to live here and raise our children here. I would hate to see my son grow up in an area that's been developed that would lose the beauty. And what would where would all the nature go and all of the animals and all of those things? Are they just gonna go into town? I see animals and foxes in the Greenbelt area and stuff. I would hate for those animals not to have a place to go that, that's where they live. The people who live in these areas, that are further out, they're willing to drive. They drove, their whole time that they've lived there. It's not because they don't want to. If they didn't want to live in these areas, they would move closer to the city. So, I would like y'all to, reconsider and, really think about the commercial growth that you all allow in the county. I'd love for my children to grow up and see the beauty in the area that I've grown up with. Thanks.
I'm Doug Cox. I live at 6710 Avens Lane in Tallahassee, and I'm glad to be here to have a chance to speak. I love the mountains. I think most of you do too. Some of you I've worked with and know from the past. And I live in the mountains. I live on the board of the park. So keeping it that way, keeping the scenic beauty as it is or as close as we can come and still allow for development is near to my heart. But specifically, as other people have said, we have spent a long time in this county in the previous decades planning with input and studies, citizens coming together, and we come up with a plan for developing urban growth boundaries and the development of our county. So what I want to know is, what's changed? Who is calling out for changing these zoning ordinances and zoning provisions that we have? Do you know? Does anybody here know exactly what's changed? Anybody? Unless something's changed, why don't we stay with our zoning plan the way it is? If there's a need for change, bring it forward, tell us all what it is, and we'll consider it. But I don't see any heads nodding. I don't know what the crush is or the push is to make this change. So let's not make it until we know. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. My name is Cindy Mullins. I live on US 129. I've lived there for 25 years. My husband grew up there and went to school in Lanier. When we first got married, it took 20 minutes, 3 miles out that road to get to Alcoa Highway to Airport Toyota. It's now a 35-minute drive because we no longer have a bypass and all the growth on 411. And in the previous years, I have seen extensive traffic from motorcycles that come to enjoy the area. It's a beautiful drive. We like it out there. We enjoy the drive. I would like to see that scenic area stay scenic. We're already getting a traffic problem from the excessive visitors on motorcycles and cars. I rode that road before it became so populated. I will not drive it today in a car because of the traffic. My concern is if you go ahead and open up commercial development in that area, which I think that was one of the 4 areas listed, you're going to see a lot more growth, and there's already problems there. There's high fatalities. I have family members that have died in that area due to the traffic and the curves and the motorcycles and so forth in that area. I would really like to see you reconsider this. I've listened to what they've said. It makes a lot of sense. We have spent so much money coming up with a plan. I have the same question. Why is this such an importance? Who wants this? What are they intending to do in these areas? Why is it not being disclosed? Why is it being pushed? I'm totally in agreement to request that maybe you consider this and give the public time to see what it is. Give us full disclosure. Tell us what's planned. You know, I'm a taxpayer. I've been a taxpayer for 25 years. I've seen the growth and the changes just in this one area alone. I've driven all over Blount County in home health. I've seen the growth everywhere over the years. And to tell you the truth, I enjoyed working in Lenoir City better because I could get everywhere faster. We have so much growth and traffic lights, and you know, it's great that we have growth. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else but here. And we appreciate you. We showed our support by voting you into these offices. We trust you with the decisions, and we hope you let your conscience be your guide. Thank you for letting me speak.
My name is Ingrid Hon. I live in Louisville. When questions like this about zoning come up, it often comes down to a discussion of property rights. And I think what's important is to find a balance between the different entities, the different parties involved. And sometimes the needs of the community trump individual property rights. And I want to give you an analogy that I came up with. I'm a taxpayer. I have to help pay for our roads. They're public, and in a sense, I own them. I also own my own car. So why should I be restricted in how I use my car on those roads? Why shouldn't I be able to drive as fast as I want in a school zone? Why shouldn't I be able to drive drunk if I want to, or drive without insurance? Shouldn't I be able to do these things? Why would my rights be restricted? Because I own some of this. I own my car, I own the roads. Well, obviously, as a society, we've decided that it is in the community's interest, vital interest, to protect safety and welfare of all individuals, including me, the driver, but the whole community, by imposing restrictions on my individual liberty, if you will. Obeying traffic rules is not always to our liking, and we can get frustrated. It can be inconvenient. But if we didn't have these laws, our roads would be chaotic and very dangerous. And if you've ever driven a car in Mexico City, you know what that looks like. Laws like this are concessions that we as a society make in order to exist together relatively peacefully. In the words of the Stones, you can't always get what you want, right? You might be able to get what you need. Reasonable restraints on individual rights and freedoms serve the community's and the individual's interests. All property owners have property rights. The number of intersections that we're talking about represents a whole lot of property owners. And we need to make sure that we protect everybody. I heard Haslam's speech last night, and I thought he closed with a really good point, which was all of us are, for example, he is in office now, but someday he's not going to be. And he said, I want to make sure that my legacy feels right to me, what my legacy was. So thank you very much for listening.
My name's John Carlton Templeton. I live at 1601 Brahman Lane, Seymour, in beautiful East Tennessee. I've spoken out in opposition to this idea before. My reasons for opposing it are numerous, and they have been expressed many times here tonight. That opposition has also been expressed in letters to the editor, in newspaper ads, and in letters and telephone calls to you, the commissioners. Your constituents have spoken. They don't like this proposal. They want it turned down. I guess your decision boils down to what result you get when you balance the will of the people against the desires of big corporate commercial interests. Whose interests are paramount to you? How important are the rights of current property owners in Blount County versus those of faceless interlopers who only want the dollars? I understand it's possible that some citizens may favor this proposal for a variety of reasons, primarily convenience and personal gain. However, as I've said many times before in this very room, Blount County government should not hold itself responsible for ensuring the profitability of investments people have made. As is true of the federal government, this panel should not be in the business of picking winners and losers. If a property owner along 411 North or 321 East wants her property rezoned to commercial use, there's a mechanism in place to hear that petition, and based on existing zoning regulations and the philosophies expressed in the county's own land use planning documents, there's a way to decide whether the petition has merit. This proposal throws the interests of the majority under a speeding bus of commercial joyriders. So I say this is a bad idea, poorly conceived, vastly unpopular. This proposal should be turned down. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Donna Dixon, I live in District 10. I actually talked to my commissioner earlier today and expressed my desire to ask the question, why was this even being considered? I pass two of these Dollar General stores frequently, and actually I've considered them to be litter zones in our community. Most of the time the lot itself is dirty. The area that's been constructed is the only area that's kept on the whole lot. The rest of it's usually left with dirt just piled left and not even cared for. So I consider them litter zones. Why the commission would want to have commercial property in areas that do not even receive garbage service is beyond my understanding. And the other fact is that I've heard this from everybody that's come that's been very eloquent, far from my statement here, saying that this has been opposed not only at this time, but at previous discussions. So, when I talked to my commissioner, he said, well, people need grocery stores in their areas. And I said, that's a good idea, but when we look at what's really sold in these stores, it's primarily tobacco products and cigarettes. And the quality of the groceries that are there should be really questioned, because oftentimes, and I've known people that work in these stores and look at them, they're products that are poor quality, poor for nutrition, not even fresh fruits and vegetables, and usually things that are nearly out of date. So I ask that you really look at this new zoning as really a fundamental good thing in our community. I think that it's not, and I ask you to please oppose this merely because we don't have the infrastructure in and around our 2-lane roads for these commercial properties to be constructed. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Sandy Vandenberg, 2810 Muscadine Drive. I won't take much time. I just want you to know that I'm opposed to. We had zoning regulations. It seems like this group, I hope you all will listen to the public, but I didn't know about this meeting at all either till I read the 2 letters to the editor in the Daily Times, and I'm thankful the Daily Times did publish them today. I did call some other people to try to get them to come, and everyone I called said, we're against it, but we didn't know the meeting was tonight and they had something else to do. So I just think we have enough, and when Donna said something about needing grocery stores, there's grocery stores everywhere. I mean, I run out of things sometime. I just make do and do something else till I can get to the grocery store. But I don't think we need something on every corner. And Blount County is a beautiful place. I've lived here since '73, and I've seen a lot of changes. When we moved here, there was nothing here. There wasn't a Kmart, there wasn't a McDonald's. Our little boy liked McDonald's. We had to go to Knoxville for McDonald's, but I never complained about it because I love Blount County and I love the land. So I hope you all consider this. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Wesley Buchanan. I live at 4212 Bart Giffen Road. I also, like a lot of people here, grew up in Happy Valley. I still own property there. And I live near Carpenter School. I've heard a lot of talk about Dollar General store. We have a lot of buildings on 129 South that were commercial buildings at one time that have been closed for many years. I don't I really don't think we need that much growth in those areas. I do recognize that I would like to be able to do what I would like to do with my own property, but that isn't always the case. I understand that too. But I really believe that all we're really doing here today is rehashing what's already been hashed out. We should, and I know this has been said before, but we should actually look at each request on its own merit. I thank y'all.
Anyone else? Come forward.
My name's Kenneth McCollum. I live 715 Neff Street here in Maryville, but I'm here with concerns about also co-pastor church out on 4076 Sevierville Road. It's just this side of Davis Ford Road, and I'm pretty sure we would be within the number of feet. I just wonder when it says, and I know when you zone this, if you do zone it, you'll have to be strict on your square footage and stuff. 10,000 square feet for all buildings. If we decide we want to build a sanctuary, a larger sanctuary later, we might be limited. I'm not sure how that'll affect public buildings, public service buildings, churches, or other buildings. So my concern would be, because we're close to an intersection, would it limit us later if we did decide? And because 10,000 square feet for all buildings on the property, if I'm reading this right, cuts you down on the church size. So that's just my concerns. I'm just here wondering how that's going to play out on that part of it. I don't know if a variance would be available to change that because I know y'all have to be real strict on your, if it does pass. So that's just, I just wanted to express that concern, so I'm not unaware how that'll be for us. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no hands, this public hearing has come forward.
Sorry, thank you. My name is John Rush, and I live off of Ellajoy Road in Walland, and moved to Blount County in 1980 and went to Maryville College and have lived here ever since then. And I followed zoning issues since I've been here. I have a master's degree in city and urban planning, and I've followed the whole zoning debate, whether we should have it or not, and followed it through. And I just wanted to let you know that I think if you consider the new zoning addition that you're considering, I'm not sure if it's a real good idea. It takes out a level of people's review of what could happen to the property around them. And so I hope that you would consider to take a better look at it, because when a two-lane road intersects with a major arterial road, that's a lot of roads in Blount County, so that kind of opens up the whole bellywag of allowing certain business uses on roads where if you didn't have this zoning change, then there would be more review by the public. So I think we're kind of rushing into this. I know it's a concern for people who don't want Dollar General stores to pop up or whatever around their property, but this is more of a basic change of how we zone Blount County. And I think that's what you need to consider is this rezoning change, this new designation opens up a lot of Blount County to more development with less review by the public. And, you know, we fought hard to kind of keep Blount County rural and we're right next to Smoky Mountains. We're blessed to be host to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So I think that we really need to be stewards of the land. And I'm afraid this new zoning designation will just kind of allow development to occur easier in our rural areas, and that's a major concern. Once again, two-lane road, the intersection of another road, I mean, that's a lot of intersections in Blount County. So I hope you consider to maybe take a step back and just think about not doing it. I'm sorry. I just don't think it's a good thing to do right now. Maybe we'll think about it in the future. But as far as a planning perspective, I'm afraid it kind of opens some doors that we may not want to go into as far as making Blount County as beautiful as we want it to be. So thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no hands, this public hearing is adjourned. All right, stay in your seats. We'll hear this one other person.
Hi there. Sorry I'm late coming in. My name is Bethany Love. I live off of Allegheny Loop. And just wanted to say that, you know, those of us who live out in the county live out there because we choose to, and because we like the rural setting and the rural character of our land. And I think it's important that, especially as our population grows faster and faster, and we fill in the gaps of all the space that used to be wild and farmland, that we do so carefully and we do so responsibly. And to rush in this and make it a free-for-all, I think it's going to turn into a mess. And I think that the people who live in this county live here because we care about that rural character. We care about protecting the land and the quality of life that we have here. And to let it just be open development, but more or less, I think would be a real detriment to the place that we have. And I really think we have an honor and a duty to protect this beautiful place that we have, and hold it in esteem and realize the treasure that we have, and honor that and honor the people that have worked hard to protect that and make it home. And I think that in doing that, we're going to increase the quality of our county and in the long run invite people in and make it a better place and have more business and have more revenue. But we need to do it in a way that's responsible. So I think rushing into this is the wrong move, and I hope you guys will vote against it. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Seeing no hands, this public hearing is closed for the second time.